The harsh midday sun of the Hamptons was not a gentle light. It was a physical weight, pressing down on my shoulders and scorching everything it touched. Inside the thick rubber lining of the lobster costume, the air was completely stagnant. It was dense, sweltering, and reeked of industrial chemicals mixed with my own salty sweat. Every breath felt like inhaling smoke from an old boiler room. My vision was narrowed through two small mesh slits in the head of the plastic sea monster. The outside world appeared with the nauseating brilliance of the Sea Breeze charity gala. The scent of expensive perfume and fresh lilies drifted by, mocking the stench of humiliation surrounding me. I raised the heavy, thick-padded lobster claw and waved soulfully. "Keep going, Michael. You're the centerpiece of the party."
The voice of Evelyn, my mother-in-law, tore through the sound of the rustling waves like a shard of sharp glass. She stood there, magnificent in a cream silk dress, not a single hair out of place, despite the sea breeze. She reached out to adjust her diamond bracelet with a skillful and contemptuous flick of her wrist. The surrounding guests laughed, a dry, shrill sound, like crystal being smashed to insult my soul. Under the bright red plastic shell, my skin was burning, and sweat ran into my stinging eyes. I felt like an animal trapped in a glass cage, brought out to be entertainment for those in silk suits holding champagne flutes. Evelyn looked at me through her oversized sunglasses, her smile never reaching eyes as cold as aspen frost. "Hang in there, son-in-law. Every wave of your hand is a contribution for the poor children."
Her voice was as sweet as honey laced with poison, containing the ultimate irony. People laughed again, the sound echoing through the luxurious space like an unpleasant static. My heart tightened, but my expression remained buried behind the mindless plastic mask. I had learned the power of silence in this house. Let them laugh. Let them believe what they want to see. They think they are controlling a failure, paying the price for his poverty. But they don't know that inside this scorching red armor, a punishment is being silently prepared. They saw a stupid lobster playing a fool in the sun. I saw a rotten financial system waiting to be exposed. Before becoming the useless son-in-law in the Holloway family, I was a man with my own world.
My fingers used to glide over mechanical keys to build unassailable cryptographic fortresses. But here, I was just a ghost moving through someone else's charity event. 5 years ago, I entered this family with the innocence of a man who believed in love and promises. Evelyn Holloway, a woman who always confused control with love, saw in me a tool instead of a human being. She once promised to invest in my cybersecurity project, the project I had spent my youth developing, only to later secretly steal it, turn it into family assets, and push me into the position of a parasite. For 5 years since that day, my life has been a series of sophisticated humiliations over dinner. In the mansion glittering like a snow globe in the Hamptons, everything was perfect on the outside, but frozen from within.
I remember every look measuring my worth, every remark cutting deep into my self-esteem. They called my silence the cowardice of a man with no voice. My wife, the one who should have stood by me, now only knew how to sigh every time Evelyn uttered a mockery. She was so used to the glamour, the Hermes bags, and the luxury vacations that she forgot the taste of the truth.
Last week, when forced by Evelyn to clean her private office, a job for a housekeeper but given to me to humiliate, I accidentally discovered something. She had exposed a security hole in the Sea Breeze Charity Fund management system. It was just a small loophole in the old software she refused to update to save money. But to me, it was a wide open door leading to a treasure trove of lies.
I secretly infiltrated the system in the silent nights when the whole house was submerged in the sleep of self-satisfaction. Numbers never know how to lie, even when people do it most professionally. I saw that contributions from donors never reached the hands of poor children in the suburbs. They circled through shell accounts, then finally stopped at the invoices for luxury jewelry from stores in Manhattan.
The diamond jewelry glittering on Evelyn's neck tonight was the result of that ruthless embezzlement. This injustice wound around me like familiar, polished, and humiliating chains. I spent months collecting every piece of evidence, every bank statement, every chat message between her and the jewelry brokers. They thought I was here because I was broke and desperate.
The truth was, the woman laughing heartily up there had no idea that her entire career was in the hands of the son-in-law she was forcing to wear a lobster suit. I stood there, feeling my pulse steady behind the plastic mask. The heat no longer bothered me as much as before. The humiliation now became a perfect cover for my plan of punishment. They had bought my silence with contempt. Now I would buy their attention with the truth. An expectant silence enveloped the entire garden of the Holloway estate. I stood in the darkness, my fingers trembling slightly with adrenaline flowing through my veins, pressing the final command key on the tablet. The giant LED screen behind Evelyn flickered once. Then, instead of the documentary film about poor children, it displayed a cold black band. It was only the cold, ruthless look of expectations that had been betrayed. And tonight, I will be the greatest lesson they ever have to learn. The Sea Breeze Charity Gala had entered its most brilliant phase as the spotlights began to sweep across the mirror-flat pool water. The sound of the string orchestra mingled with whispering laughter, creating a symphony of extreme self-satisfaction and luxury. Everyone stood around round tables covered in pristine white silk, where champagne towers glittered like mounds of liquid diamonds. The scent of butter-grilled lobster and expensive truffles wafted, but for me, it only increased the nausea rising in my throat. Inside the lobster costume, my sweat had soaked the lining, creating an unbearable, sticky and itchy feeling.
Every time I moved the plastic lobster claw, I felt the ruthless friction of the rubber against the burning stings on my skin. But I still stood there, a bright red monster out of place among the silk suits and flowing evening gowns. I watched the world through two small mesh slits, feeling like a ghost moving through someone else's party. Every word here sparkled with status. Every glance was used to measure human worth.
Evelyn stepped onto the podium in the center of the garden, brilliant yellow light pouring down on her high-bun hair and cream silk dress. On her neck, the diamond jewelry named the Heart of the Ocean shone brilliantly, catching the light and scattering it into thousands of arrogant sparks. She smiled, a perfect smile, honed through decades of living in lies and power. Distinguished guests, the Sea Breeze Fund is not just a name, it is hope for thousands of children out there, she voiced, her sound booming and full of fake kindness. I stood tucked behind a lamppost, my hand clutching the mini tablet hidden cleverly inside the giant lobster claw. The tablet screen emitted a faint blue light, displaying lines of code running continuously against a black background.
Every command line was a hammer blow, hitting the foundation of the crystal empire Evelyn was standing on. I had infiltrated deep into the charity fund's central server, bypassing the flimsy firewalls she thought were secure. Before me were not radiant faces, but telling numbers of betrayal. I saw the $50,000 contribution from an oil corporation just withdrawn from the fund's account 2 hours before the party began.
That money did not go to suburban schools. It was transferred directly to a prestigious jewelry store on Fifth Avenue. It was the very jewelry set hugging Evelyn's neck tonight, glittering under the lights like undeniable evidence of a crime. This injustice wound around me like familiar, polished, and humiliating chains. I saw my wife standing below the stage, clapping enthusiastically, her eyes glittering with pride for her great mother. She had no idea, or perhaps she had chosen not to know, that the luxury she was enjoying was built on ruthless deceit. In this world, perfection was not warm. It was only the cold and rigid look of expectations. They thought I was a coward, a son-in-law with no voice, who only knew to obey to keep the title of Holloway family member.
Evelyn glanced toward me, a look full of condescension, as if reminding me to continue playing the fool to entertain the guests. She had no idea that the bright red monster she was despising was the one holding the wheel of this party. I took a deep breath, feeling my lungs fill with the sweltering air inside the cheap plastic layer. My finger lightly touched the enter button on the touchscreen, preparing to trigger a script that none of them had rehearsed for. My silence for the past 5 years was not failure, but the preparation for the final lesson for them. They believe in control, but those who lose control lose everything. The grandfather clock in the mansion's main hall struck 9, the deep chime echoing through the space. Snow, no, white rose petals, began to be dropped from above, covering the gala in a pristine veil of illusion. Beneath the veneer of perfection, the rot was screaming for attention. I secretly connected the tablet to the giant projection system behind the stage. My heart beat hard, thudding in my chest, joining the deep drum of the orchestra. Evelyn began talking about the Kites of Hope project, where she claimed she would build 10 new classrooms. She raised her hand, the diamonds on her wrist glittering as if to challenge the very night sky. I laughed coldly in the darkness of the giant lobster head. Their betrayal had burned out. Only absolute peace remained in my soul as I prepared to press the button. Their journey at this peak would end here. And the Christmas gift, no, the gift of this gala, would be something they would never forget. I was ready to see how the sound of the collapse would ring out. Justice doesn't need to be loud. It only needs the right moment to rise from the depths of humiliation. I pressed the start button. The real game begins now. The spotlight suddenly focused all intensity on the center of the stage, where Evelyn was standing like a goddess of kindness. She spread her arms wide, letting the cream silk fly lightly in the sea breeze, creating an image perfect to the extreme. And now, I invite you all to look back at the smiles we have ignited together, she declared proudly, her voice full of fake pride. An expectant silence enveloped the entire garden of the Holloway estate. I stood in the darkness, my fingers trembling slightly with adrenaline flowing through my veins, pressing the final command key on the tablet. The giant LED screen behind Evelyn flickered once, then instead of the documentary film about poor children, it displayed a cold black band. It was not images of smiles, but a detailed bank statement with red numbers as blood. What is this? A whisper rose from the front row, where guests began to frown at the screen. Evelyn still hadn't realized. She was still smiling and looking toward the crowd until she saw the shock spreading on the face of her best friend. She turned back, and her breath seemed to freeze right in her throat. On the screen was the image of the invoice for the Heart of the Ocean jewelry set she was wearing on her neck, with the date and time of purchase matching the date the money was withdrawn from the Seabreeze Fund. Right below were screenshots of her secret chats with the broker, discussing legitimizing the charity money into personal assets. "Turn it off! Turn it off immediately!" Evelyn shrieked, the sound shrill and full of panic, completely breaking the noble aura she had painstakingly built all evening. But the system had been completely taken over by me. All external interference efforts became useless. The entire gala erupted in screams and chaos. Champagne glasses were dropped, the sound of crystal shattering on the marble floor, as sharp as the sound of her very crown cracking. My wife stood frozen below the stage, her eyes wide with horror, looking at the evidence of her family's rot. I stepped out from the darkness, still in the heavy lobster suit, but this time I didn't wave at the guests. I removed the head of the plastic monster, revealing a sweat-drenched face, but eyes burning with a cold freedom. Every eye fixed on me, the son-in-law they had just mocked a few minutes ago. "Michael? You...
What have you done?" Evelyn stammered, her hands trembling as she covered the jewelry on her neck as if afraid it would disappear. I stepped onto the stage, every step carrying the weight of 5 years of being despised. "I didn't do anything, Evelyn," I said, my voice booming through the speaker system that I had adjusted to the maximum volume. "I simply performed the presentation of your real achievements tonight." "You said the Sea Breeze Fund was hope, but in reality, it was your private wallet. Every diamond on your neck is a classroom left unfinished, a meal stolen from the children you just mentioned." Evelyn started to rush toward me to slap me, but she froze when she saw the reporters and investors starting to hold up their phones to record every moment of this humiliation. The perfection she worshipped had shattered, revealing a shriveled soul full of greed. My wife ran onto the stage, tears streaming down her expensive makeup. "Michael, why did you have to destroy this family in front of everyone?" I looked at her. For the first time, I saw that she was no longer radiant, but just a pathetic piece in her mother's play. "I didn't destroy it, Elena. This family has been rotten from the inside long before I pressed the button. I was just the one to pull the velvet curtain back so everyone could see the truth." Evelyn collapsed onto the stage floor, her luxury silk dress now stained with dirt and humiliation. She no longer looked like a powerful CEO, but just a thief caught red-handed in the daylight. The siren of the Coast Guard fleet blared out in the bay, sounding like a closing bell for this dark charity gala. I stood straight, taking a deep breath, feeling the weight of $30 billion. No, the weight of the truth, making me feel lighter than ever. They thought they had bought my silence with cheap costumes. But they didn't know that the lessons I brought tonight were the most valuable things. The betrayal has ended. Justice has been served right in the center of the fake glamour. And this time, no one will be able to use money to cover up this collapse. The dawn at the Hamptons began to leak through the horizon, carrying a silvery gray color, pure and gentle. The sound of the seaway against the shore was now so clear, no longer drowned out by jazz music or fake laughter. Behind me, the Holloway mansion still glowed with lights, but it looked like a ship slowly sinking into the darkness of shame. Patrol cars began to roll out of the main gate, carrying Evelyn Holloway, the woman who only yesterday believed she could buy the whole world with lies.
I stood on the fine sand, feeling the cold morning mist brush against shoulders that had just shed the heavy plastic shell. The smell of cheap plastic and the sweat of humiliation had vanished, replaced by the briny, fresh scent of the sea breeze. I took a deep breath, feeling as if my lungs had just been cleared after years of being choked by expectations and contempt. They had called me useless, the cowardly son-in-law who only knew how to wave like a fool in exchange for existence.
But tonight, I realized that true power does not lie in diamond jewelry or embezzled bank account numbers. True power is the stillness in the soul when you know you have stood on the side of what is right. I reached into my pocket, touching the mini tablet, the weapon that had helped me strip away that magnificent crystal veneer. Everything is truly over now, I whispered to the vast ocean. My wife chose to stay in those ruins, trying to save what was left of a prestigious family that had cracked. She still didn't understand that one cannot rebuild a house on a foundation of deceit. I turned and walked along the water's edge, leaving deep footprints on the sand, footprints that would soon be washed away by the tide, like the way I wanted to erase my past with the Holloway family. Success is not about how high you climb on the status ladder of the elite. It lies in whether you dare to step down to keep your own integrity or not. I looked out to the distant sea, where the last stars were slowly setting, giving way to a truly free new day. The air here is so clean. No more expensive perfume covering the rot. No more mockery wrapped in silk. Just me and the truth. The past was no longer a heavy boulder weighing down my shoulders every time I woke up. It had become a solid foundation for the new journey I was about to begin. A journey without the control of anyone. I smiled, a truly warm smile, reflecting the dawn rising brilliantly over the sea. My journey is only just beginning.